Well, I played it. XDefiant, the COD killer, so they say. I got a code from watching some random person stream, I downloaded the game, and I spent a good chunk of time with it. This game was set to be the perfect FPS. No skill-based matchmaking, real guns, classic COD gameplay feel. This game is going to show Activision who's boss, the ultimate gaming experience for the new generation. It's alright. It's not good or bad or anything really, it's kind of just decent. As indifferent as I feel about the game, I do have some things to say about it, so in today's episode of RatedEm, let's discuss the XDefiant Beta. Before we start, if you like video essay style videos like this one, feel free to subscribe. I talk about video games on this channel, whether it's reviewing them or looking back on them, so if that interests you, subscribe. Also, if you enjoy variety gaming content like funny moments from games or reactions to gaming videos, check out my second channel, link is in the description. Finally, if you want a clean but powerful gaming energy mix, use code RatedEm for 10% off at checkout at w.gg. Now let's get into the video. So, some background, XDefiant is a game being developed by Ubisoft. Yes, the same Ubisoft that I've mentioned on a few accounts that I really don't like. The thing with this game, however, is that a large portion of the lead developers are all former Call of Duty devs, specifically from the MW3 and BO2 era if I recall. This means that a lot of the game's design choices are evident in the older Call of Duty titles, which the COD fanbase will not stop lamenting about how much they want these design elements to be brought back. It's stuff like simpler movement, less realistic and seemingly random maps, and the biggest one being the removal of skill-based matchmaking. However, this game does take some elements from newer Call of Duty titles like sliding, specialists, and the gunsmith attachment system. With all that out of the way, let's talk about my experience with the game. First off, yes, it feels like old COD. I was skeptical of everyone saying it feels like Black Ops 2 because the COD community is so delusional at this point, they'll believe whatever they want to make up. But no, they're actually right. It feels like a mixture of Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 4. Specifically, it feels like BO4 movement-wise and BO2 in terms of gunplay. Gunfights do feel like gunfights and not just King Crimson jumps in time, and you run at a decent pace, and I haven't really seen anyone doing any crazy movement shit like in Modern Warfare 2019. In terms of specialists, I feel like the Libertad and the cleaner abilities are the only viable options, but I think Echelon has the best ultimate in the game. It's the Annihilator from BO3 if it was semi-auto, it is crazy. If you're not well versed in the modern FPS sphere, you're probably wondering why I'm making all these connections in contrast to Call of Duty. Well, that's because right now, Activision and the developers behind modern COD titles are making some of the most insane, outlandish, anti-consumer choices for their games. They're focusing too much on microtransactions than supplying new unique weapons or good maps, even though the community has been crying out for what seems like years at this point. I just thought I'd clarify because I didn't earlier. Back to my thoughts on the game. The maps are good, real good. They're visually appealing and they play really nicely in terms of PvP. However, in terms of objective, I find that domination and the payload game mode really don't work well on these maps. I find that the payload never gets moved, and domination usually results in one team getting spawn killed for half the match, which isn't fun for either side. Control and hardpoint are fine enough, hardpoint playing the best out of all four modes, but they really need to do something about the spawns. It's not fun when I can't find enemies because two of my teammates are catching any opponent who exits a spawn area in the blink of an eye. The gunplay feels okay and the guns feel relatively balanced, but I've got two really weird complaints. The first is that playing this game on a controller feels rigid as hell. It feels like playing Cyberpunk on a controller. Oh wait, I haven't put out my Cyberpunk review yet. Fuck, this is shit. This is awkward. Maybe it's just due to muscle memory, but I personally feel that Call of Duty has always had a really smooth feel to its aiming. It always felt just right and it feels natural to drag your aim while moving. But in this game, I found myself moving my character to line up my shots because if I moved my right stick, I'd completely overshoot it. Even playing with a low sensitivity didn't really fix this. The second issue is that the guns just take up too much of the screen. Like, look at the MP5 sights, this is just way too much. They either need to somehow shrink the view models for these guns, or they need to increase the FOV or something. A maximum of 120 FOV just isn't cutting it, and I was missing people right in front of me due to the size of the guns. Oh, also, this game does have simple features like map voting and persistent lobbies. It's weird that these are selling features since they should be in pretty much any multiplayer FPS, but they're here. And alright, let's discuss the big one, scale-based matchmaking. It's supposedly a massive issue amongst the COD community that being paired up with people your skill sucks because then you can't decimate new players who don't even understand that you can aim down your sights. In this game, there's no skill-based matchmaking, so if you suck, you're going to be pit against the best gamers in the world, aka 16-year-olds who live off of Red Bull. In my opinion, my humble opinion, SBMM should stay in video games, but hear me out. because you might like what I have to say next. You don't hate skill-based matchmaking. You just hate poorly implemented skill-based matchmaking. Call of Duty's modern SBMM system is completely and utterly flawed. For the uninitiated, if you're having a really good game in COD, the game automatically makes your next match full of players who are most likely practicing for their chance at a spot on a real competitive team. And inversely, if you do really bad, your next game will be against people who just bought the game. This is really bad, especially if the previous match was kinda just by chance. I'm not great at competitive games, but there are some games where I just pop off by luck. In Call of Duty's eyes, that one ace that I magically scored in the middle of a search and destroy match is enough evidence for me to secretly be Optic Scump, and it forces me into a match against a bunch of other pro players, and then I do bad, and then I don't have fun, and then my next match, I get put into a lobby where people aren't that good, and I feel bad because they're not familiar with the game, so on and so forth. This is a problem, yes, but it's unfortunate that this is a large part of the FPS community's idea of SBMM, when meanwhile it's just COD's idea of SBMM. They, for some reason, attribute it to the entire idea of SBMM, which isn't really true. I personally think we need SBMM to protect newer players from being completely turned off from the game. Also, inversely, so that competent players don't have to work twice as hard to carry the less skilled players. I think SBMM should just have a wider spectrum of skill levels to match players up against, and it should take more evidence to change a player's skill level. That's just my 2 cents. I'm not really an expert on that whole debacle, which is probably because I'm not really into competitive games anymore. I think that's why I find XDefiant so okay. It's because I don't really know what to look for in these competitive games. I had my prime at 15 to 16 years old, and now I'm almost 20. I've changed a lot over that course of time, and sure, I play CSGO from time to time, but like, I can't really jive with games like Overwatch or even COD anymore. I can't remember the last time I loaded up MW2 for my own sake. I just find myself enjoying games like Life is Strange or Darkest Dungeon or Minecraft. Why constantly put yourself through these sensory overload, high octane, anger-inducing games? Just breathe. Just chill out. Just have fun. So yeah, XDefiant is good, but I think it made me realize I'm not really cut out for FPS games anymore. If I was, I think I'd feel a lot more moved by this game, but to be honest, I kinda just don't care. Despite it being an objectively good game, I personally just don't see much appeal in it. I think the beta is unfortunately over by the time this video comes out, but whenever it does release, go play it. It's worth checking out. And then I'll see you in 3 months after that when the game dies and I make a what happened video.